John Skinner had always dreamed of owning his own winery, and after 25 years as a Vancouver stockbroker, he and his wife Trish bought 60 acres of prime vineyard land in the heart of BC's Okanagan Valley. They made their first wine, bottled it in 2007, and after just 5 years, they were named the #1 winery in BC and the #3 winery in Canada at the Canadian Wine Awards. John, welcome. And I wanted to get right into this. You launched your wines with prices that ranged from about $30 to $55. Why did you start at the high end rather than, say, $15 and move up with reserve lines?
Well, it's a really good question because what it does is it reflects a mandate that we started with well in advance of us even planting. I found a property that was, to my mind, worthy of a really aggressive mandate, and we've had a take no prisoners mandate right from the get-go. I hired the right people. I bought the right clones and varieties and spent everything. And when it came down to our first release, it was really all about doing justice to the mandate, doing justice to the property, and I had put together a community of experts to help me with the pricing. And I looked at what was out in the market. I had a very good international seller well in advance of that, and I looked at where did I think it fell fairly, and really thought that what we'd done in that 6 years or 7 years before our first release, was it worthy of that? And did I want to make a statement? And when we sent them to the reviewers and the awards and things, I just said, this is like a final exam. Did I hire the right people? Do I have the right property? Do I have these things? And we got good feedback. So I thought, okay, bang, we entered the market at that level, and I think it respected everything that we've done to that date, and now I'm obsessed with over-delivering year over year over year, and it's exciting because the site's working.
Okay, so what would be your biggest cost drivers? What most influences the price of wine, especially for wines at your price point, $40, $50, that sort of thing?
Well, there's a basket, and it really starts with the dirt. And we're a state, we own the dirt. We're 100%. Like I spent a year preparing the site before we even planted. So it really, putting together a team, sourcing the right clones and varieties, all these kind of things become part of what ultimately is in the bottle. And then it comes down to your oaking strategy, your expertise. I liked a number of the Okanagan wines. I thought there was a lot of room for improvement.
Okay.
So I hired a Bordeaux consultant who is staggeringly knowledgeable, and our team benefits he comes over 6 times a year, and our team benefits enormously. The Okanagan benefits enormously. Every time he's there, he's teaching. So once again, this all goes into the cost of whatever goes into the bottle.
Right. And does he fly business class? Does that also go into the price of the bottle?
Well, Dan doesn't fly coach, and he doesn't like cheap hotels, and he doesn't like bad cars. But I adore the guy. He's worth his weight in gold.
Okay. And just for an example, compare the price on average of, say, a French barrel, which you use, and whatever the cheapest barrels would be on the market, whether
Let me
it's
give you the best
Hungarian
example.
Okay.
Well, even without them being new, you can buy new oak for $300. American oak is $300, $350. We do use a small amount in our Syrah because it has a brightening effect, and I wouldn't use it if it wasn't the best thing for it. But it's probably only at most 30%. But they're $350. Mine are $1,300.
Wow.
In our first couple of vintages, we used 100% new oak, and we sold it to the competition the next year for $350. That's second fill.
Wow.
So it's a commitment, and it's something. I didn't look at what are we doing in our region. I looked at what are every region has its spectrum, their low end and their high end, and I looked at what are they doing at the very highest end in the world, and I just said, this is where we're going. This is what we're going to do, and because ultimately it'll come down to the region, it will come down to the property, it'll come down to the mandate. Those are just very simple things. So if I said cut a corner, then immediately I said, okay, we want to be in a different tier, and I've just to this date, I'm finally starting to get confidence that all of these decisions have been founded on a worthy property, And that's
Okay.
the main thing. That's what really resonates.
And now we've talked about cost factors, but when consumers go to buy your wine in one of the liquor stores, there's government tax. I know that varies by province, but give us an idea on, say, a $40 bottle of wine. How much are we paying in tax?
Well, in British Columbia, you're right. In British Columbia and Ontario, it's completely different. My wine at the cellar door is $40. That's my cab. Now, in British Columbia, when a British Columbian buys it, it's $40. In the $40 is HST, so it's a combined GST and PST. In Ontario, if we sell it and we have to go through the LCBO, we send it to Ontario at our cellar door price, or perhaps discount it, because ultimately I'm about building brand. I want Canadians, not just British Columbians, to drink my wine. So I've discounted it at times to get it into the LCBO. Those wines are, say I sell it at 30, they then put 60% on it at the LCBO. They put 60% on it, and then if I have an agent in Ontario, they put their fees on it. So the end user in Ontario, it's really, really hard under the present rules and regulations to get my wines to residents of Ontario at prices I want to get them to. So this Bill C-311, I'm a big, well, I'm quite vocal as far as that's concerned, because I, as a small winery, have the most at stake, and I don't use the big distribution channels because I don't have the volume. I want to go, I'm just a little tiny player, and I'm not going to affect anybody's bottom line. I'm not going to be a big thing to the LCBO or the BCLTB, but we need to get in front of consumers. So that's my journey right now, is I want residents of Canada, not British Columbia, to be able to get our wine at good prices.
Yeah. And now would you say, or some people would say, that pricing a wine at, say, $55, $100 is just mostly marketing and positioning? It's to create an instant cult wine or badge wine. Talk to me about that.
I love it, because do you know what goes into our red icon is staggering. Just in terms of, now we get to the mandate, and I should reflect on the mandate a little bit, because that gets right back to the red icon. We have a small planting of Petit Verdot. It ripens magically on this property. It's never been released in anything except our red icon. It's the attack. You know it right at the beginning, and our red icon wouldn't be the same wine without it. So these little things that go into it, the blending of it with Alain, who's just absolutely amazing. And you know, I've discovered now that I've got a pretty I've got a voice in that equation now. You know, I've got a little bit of swagger with Alain, who's absolutely brilliant. But I know what goes into making that wine, and I really, you know, being a collector, I've spent a lot on first grows, and I am by no means comparing ourselves. But at some place, you have to say, okay, I know there are $30 and $40 and $50 bottles out there that I think we compare very, very well against, and there are some elephants in the room, like a couple of British Columbia big wines, well-known wines that retail for $75. And when I sat down, when we released our first wines, I sat down with some of British Columbia's top reviewers around a table. I tasted them. They knew what I'd been up to for the last 7 years. And I said, price it with me. And they said, you know, this one's $75, John. Your others should be 40. You need to be 55, because you need to tell the market that you're serious. And we don't prove a lot, like we don't produce a lot, but what goes into the icon, Alain has his pick of barrels, he has his pick of every clone, every variety, everything to build that wine first, and then we do varietals after it. So our heart and soul is in that wine first and foremost.
Okay, so that's interesting. So it's not just a matter of it costs this much and we're going to mark it up 10%. It is about market positioning and being comparable to what's out there. Now answer this question, John.
Yeah.
Can you get a decent, good bottle of wine under $15?
A decent British Columbian wine, or from what region?
I
find, you know, yes, you can. There's some small producers that, I mean, ultimately it comes down to what fruit you're trying to ripen and what quantities you get. So you're going to get higher tonnages of Pinot Gris. So you're going to get, so if I was looking for the best of a certain variety, I would go to some of the whites at that price point, because they're getting 6 tons an acre, and they're able to price it. You know, if I get 2 tons an acre, so you think about the math now. I am capable of producing 6 tons an acre, but we produce 2.5. So we drop an inordinate amount of fruit. So if you think I priced my wine at $40 and somebody who's priced it at 15 produced 6 tons, the economics are very, very comparable. But we would never get the concentrations, we would never get the complexities that you need, that we really are going for in our wines. With that, but you don't really need it in a Pinot Gris. So your $15 bottle, I probably would focus on those in particular from BC, and Gewurz, same thing. They're really working, and it's I'm very proud of my neighbors that are producing them.
What would you say that the BC winery industry as a whole has to do better?
Well, I like all these questions. We need to embrace the little guy, because the little guys are the guys who hand make wines, and the little guys are going to make our region stand out. It's not the corporate wine. It's not the big guys, because they are looking, a lot of guys say, we want to make a good $25 bottle of wine. I don't buy that stuff. I want to find Foxtrot. I mean, I love these guys. They have a very similar mandate to mine, which is we're not competing with each other because we're just a little region with a whole lot of diversity. We are competing on a world stage, and I'm in China now. We're soon going to be in London. We're in Tokyo. We're all over the place, and I want my wines to compare very, very favorably with those. And I celebrate. It won't just be Painted Rock that puts the Okanagan on the map. It has to be a community of us that adhere to the same protocol, and they're growing. And we need the support of government right now. I'll get back to this bill again because it's I'm nuts about it, but it is about freeing my grapes and getting Canadians. Right now we're so burdened by these great big liquor boards that we need freedom. And
the interprovincial barriers. We should just
Yes.
Summarize it quickly for anyone who has not yet heard it. But
Yeah.
it's basically allowing you as a winery or consumers to ship wine across borders. So if I'm in Ontario and I love your wine, I could order it or buy it while I'm at the winery and send it home.
Well, quickly, from a federal standpoint, they're saying go ahead and do it, but the provinces are saying no. The provinces, right. Ontario right now says that you have to carry it on your body, and I've just made the analogy. I said, you know what, and BC just mirrored that the other day. I just said, that's wagon train economics, or wagon train commerce. It's not e-commerce. We're in the 21st century. We need to be able to point, click, and buy, and that's the way I want my wine to go, and I don't think people have to put it in the trunk to bring it there. Anyway,
right.
So that's just...
I'll drink to that. So just picking up on one of those last points you made, do you think that the big guys can't make a good wine or represent BC? Oh,
completely they do. And full, we are growing on the backs of Mission Hill. We are growing on the backs of some of the medium tier, Burrowing Owl and these guys. It's only because of them that I even got into the business. I just thought, and they make large quantities. But as I mentioned before, every region has, Petrus produces 4,000 cases a year. Painted Rock produces 5,000. That's our model. Leonetti, these are the guys that we're mirroring or trying to emulate. And it may take generations, maybe my grandkids, that finally realize, hey, that was a pretty good piece of dirt, and it's sure glad Grandpa didn't cut corners. But that's the journey, and I'm impatient, so I just keep wanting to do things today. But anyway,
you're impatient in the wine industry.
I am, but it's been 9 years. Everybody that knows me says, man, I can't believe I've been at this so long, and you have to be patient, and it's teaching me a lot of very valuable lessons.
Well, John, thank you so much for chatting with me today. And your website is paintedrock.com?
No, paintedrock.ca.
.ca? Good.
Paintedrock.ca.
Yeah. And your Twitter handle?
Is paintedrockjohn.
Okay. Well, we'll find you online, John, and thanks again for joining us.
Natalie, I've really enjoyed this, and really nice to meet you face to face.
Okay. Cheers.
Thank you.